Summer 1944. Europe was engulfed in chaos as Allied forces finally broke through the German defenses in Normandy. The blitzkrieg that German generals considered invincible began to crack, and American forces under General George Patton raced east across France at speeds previously thought impossible. But each day of the advance created the same problem: supply. Fuel, ammunition, food, and medical supplies had to reach the front faster than the troops could consume them. Modern historians often underestimate the role logistics played. Frontline generals, brilliant strategists and masters of maneuver, would have been nothing without trucks, roads, and drivers willing to cover hundreds of miles daily across war-torn terrain. The Germans, confident that their army and destroyed bridges would create an insurmountable obstacle, were shocked when American convoys, like rivers of steel, moved along the wrecked highways carrying everything necessary for continuous advancement. At the heart of these convoys were 23,000 mostly African American drivers, men who proved to the world, and to themselves, that discipline, ingenuity, and perseverance could achieve miracles. They were not just drivers. They were heroes of an invisible front, where the Army's fighting spirit depended on wheels and gasoline. It was in this context that the Red Ball Express was born, an unprecedented logistical operation that forever changed the understanding of how industrial power and organizational skill could become decisive factors in war. Immediately after the Allied breakout from Normandy, American command faced a harsh reality. The front was advancing faster than supplies could reach it. Patton's army devoured fuel and ammunition, but supply depots were distant, and railroads were destroyed. Troops could not continue their advance without risk, and a halt would mean death for thousands of soldiers and a chance for the Germans to regroup. It was then that the idea of the Red Ball Express emerged, a network of dedicated routes and 24/7 truck convoys designed to deliver everything to the front without delay. The name, Red Ball, came from the red circle markings used on railroad maps to indicate priority freight. In this case, the symbol meant speed, efficiency, and critical importance. The primary goal was to create a constant supply flow. Red-marked routes stretched over 400 miles from Normandy ports to the front lines. Initially, all available Army transport resources were to be used, but it quickly became clear that vehicles were critically insufficient. Assistance came from African American troops, part of segregated transportation units. While racial prejudices constrained American society and military command, these men turned out to be exactly what was needed to maintain the pace of the Red Ball Express. 23,000 drivers, many with no combat experience, were trained in a matter of days. They were instructed to maintain precise speed, follow their routes, and avoid collisions. Drivers worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, taking turns in unbroken convoys. Each day, nearly 6,000 trucks rolled out, each carrying up to 2 tons of ammunition, fuel, or food. The difficulty increased because the roads were not only destroyed, but also littered with mines, abandoned vehicles, and the debris of previous battles. Drivers recalled that the road was a constant threat, from ambushes to sudden vehicle breakdowns. Daily, around 30% of vehicles failed, and mechanics worked around the clock, often repairing trucks right on the highway, sometimes cannibalizing parts from other vehicles. Yet, despite all obstacles, the convoys kept moving. The secret of success was not only driver discipline, but also the structure of the operation. Roads were organized as one-way systems. Some lanes led to the front, others returned empty, minimizing collisions. Every few miles, repair stations and supply posts allowed drivers to refuel, rest, and receive updated route information. From the German perspective, the situation looked different. Their generals assumed destroyed roads and American fatigue would halt the advance. But when they began to hear the hum of steel rivers at night, they realized the immensity of what they faced. No force could stop it, Its strength lay in continuity and efficiency, not firepower. At the wheel of a Red Ball Express truck were men who had recently faced racial segregation in the Army and society. Many were recruits from southern U.S. states, where prejudice was the norm, and military service offered a chance to prove their worth and dignity. Officers often underestimated them, believing African Americans were incapable of handling complex logistics and quick decision-making in stressful situations. But on the road, all that ceased to matter. Drivers quickly realized that the Red Ball Express success depended on their self-discipline, navigational skills, and technical ingenuity. One of the first drivers assigned to the route from the ports to the front was James Jim Harris, a 22-year-old from Georgia. In his memoirs, he recalled, "We were young, tired, and often had to fix the trucks right on the road, but every time the truck moved again and the convoy rolled on, we knew we were doing something vital for the entire army. We understood, if we didn't deliver the fuel, Patton would stop and many would die." Drivers worked almost without sleep, often 18 to 20 hours a day. They traveled in convoys, sometimes at night, navigating by red markers and signs painted on wreckage or temporary posts. The constant threats were not only mechanical, but also from German aircraft, artillery, and mines. Every trip was like a mini-battle, where victory was measured by vehicle survival and cargo delivery. The drivers' first encounters with war-torn France were harrowing. Destroyed towns, burned bridges, and roads littered with debris formed the backdrop of daily life. Yet, discipline and mutual support allowed convoys to maintain speed and efficiency. When the first convoys hit the routes, it was simultaneously awe-inspiring and chaotic. Hundreds of trucks moved along damaged French highways, sometimes colliding with debris mines and remnants of German forces still trying to delay the Allies. Early accidents and collisions were frequent. Drivers were not yet accustomed to high speeds, heavy loads, and convoy spacing, where one misstep could trigger a chain reaction. One witness wrote, "The first convoy was a test of endurance. Trucks broke down, cargo fell onto the road, some vehicles ended up in ditches. But we didn't stop. Every minute of delay could cost soldiers their lives." To manage the chaos, strict driving discipline was enforced. Each driver had a route map with red markers, refueling points, and repair stations. Officers riding ahead monitored compliance and speed. Besides mechanical and organizational challenges, drivers faced psychological pressure. Long hours behind the wheel, night drives, and the threat of mines or ambushes required immense focus. Those who succeeded became legends among their peers. Nighttime was the ultimate test. Drivers often drove 12 to 15 hours without stopping, with minimal breaks for refueling or repairs. Trucks were often old, engines worn, brakes failing, and spare parts delayed. Mechanics and drivers worked together on the road, turning each breakdown into a mini-battle for cargo delivery. Engines were fixed on the move, destroyed bridges bypassed, and tires replaced under fire. Threats from German attacks were real. While direct encounters were rare, enemy aircraft and artillery tried to disrupt convoys. Drivers learned to use chaotic routes and nighttime cover to mask movement. The endless hum of trucks created psychological pressure on the Germans. They heard the machines all night and realized the supply flow could not be stopped. Heroism manifested in solidarity. Drivers shared food, fuel, and tools, helped each other out of mud and ditches. This collective endurance became the foundation of Red Ball Express culture, where teamwork outweighed individual glory. With time, drivers mastered routes, predicted breakdowns, avoided mines, and minimized collisions. Within weeks, efficiency soared, and the Red Ball Express achieved record throughput, over 12,500 tons daily, thousands of trucks in motion, supporting Patton's army. German generals, accustomed to traditional warfare, were stunned by the speed and continuity of Allied advances. In the first weeks of Red Ball Express, Abwehr and field headquarters received alarming reports. One report from September 10, 1944 stated, "American convoys move along the roads like rivers of steel. It is impossible to stop them. Every day they bring fuel and ammunition while our soldiers starve and weaken. This is not just an army, it is a moving industrial machine." The psychological impact was as devastating as the physical. German troops heard the roar of trucks at night, an endless supply that could not be destroyed by aircraft or artillery. Captured German officers later confirmed, "We could hear the machines all night. We knew if their flow was not stopped, we could not hold our positions. They were like a shadow we could not fight." Even the most resilient Wehrmacht units began to doubt their ability to resist. The Red Ball Express became a symbol of American industrial and organizational might, showing that the war could be won not just with weapons, but with logistics. For General George Patton, the Red Ball Express was not merely a supply operation. It was a strategic tool for rapid advancement. Patton, famed for his love of speed and aggressive maneuvers, demanded maximum mobility, and the Express delivered. Daily, convoys supplied fuel, ammunition, and rations, allowing Patton's army to advance 20 to 30 miles per day, sometimes more, despite destroyed roads and German resistance. Soldiers quickly appreciated the driver's work. Patton frequently emphasized that their efforts were as critical as infantry and tanks. In one letter he wrote, "These drivers are the true heroes of the war. Without them, no tank moves, no soldier receives ammunition. Their work allows us to move faster than the enemy can respond." For German commanders, the situation was critical. They watched Patton's army speed across France, while their own units faced shortages. Reports noted that the speed of the advance paralyzed the enemy, and no counterattacks could stop the supply flow. Red Ball Express proved that logistics could be as powerful a weapon as tanks or artillery. Every decision about convoy movement, fuel, and ammunition directly influenced battle outcomes and soldier survival. In 1944, the U.S. Army was segregated. African American troops were in separate units, often assigned to support roles. Yet Red Ball Express was a unique example of segregation confronting the realities of war, and prejudice meeting skill and discipline. For many drivers, it was their first chance to handle complex, high-responsibility tasks. They operated convoys, transported tons of fuel and ammunition, risking their lives, and maintaining speed and precision. Sergeant William Brown recalled, "They underestimated us. Officers didn't think we could maintain pace or handle breakdowns and minefields. But every day we proved we could. We weren't just delivering supplies, we kept Patton moving." The paradox: an army divided by race relied on those it deemed second class. Drivers became symbols of operational efficiency and showed that courage, discipline, and skill could overcome prejudice. Many said life on the road felt fairer than base life. Success depended on driving, repairs, and delivery, not race. Red Ball Express became both a logistical and a social revolution, albeit a localized one. The red line on the map was not just a route. It was a field of engineering and technical experimentation. Convoys faced constant breakdowns, engines overheated, brakes failed, tires shredded. Drivers and mechanics improvised solutions. Often they cannibalized other trucks to repair failures. Temporary bridges made from debris, supports of wood and metal, and scavenged German vehicles became routine. Mechanic John Harris recalled, "Our truck got stuck in mud on a destroyed bridge. We used planks, beams, and wheels from another truck to get it out. Half an hour later, the convoy was moving again. No one would believe it possible unless seen." Systems for controlling massive convoy flows included signaling, checkpoints, and precise departure schedules. This minimized accidents, optimized routes, and maintain continuous supply flow. These innovations were key to the Express's success. Germans underestimated American engineering, thinking destroyed roads would halt convoys. In reality, drivers and mechanics turned impossibility into routine. By mid-October 1944, Red Ball Express reached full power. Convoys of nearly 6,000 trucks moved along 400-plus mile routes, delivering up to 12,500 tons daily. Over the 82 days from August 25 to November 16, 412,193 tons of supplies were transported, equivalent to 122 million ton-miles. Every day brought mechanical challenges, fatigue, and weather problems, yet drivers and mechanics became masters of improvisation. They repaired engines mid-route, bypassed destroyed bridges, and replaced tires under pressure. These results stunned Germans. Reports noted, Americans continue to supply at incredible speed. Their trucks move without pause. Their strength is industrial might and driver discipline. Red Ball Express became a symbol of American logistical invincibility, keeping Patton's army advancing and shortening the Western Front campaign by an estimated 6 months, saving thousands of lives. On November 16, 1944, Red Ball Express officially ended. The front had advanced sufficiently, and unbroken convoys were no longer critical. Yet its legacy remained. Red Ball Express proved several lessons. Logistics can decide wars. Patton's army could not advance without supplies. Human skill matters as much as technology. 23,000 African American drivers demonstrated courage, endurance, and heroism. Innovation and ingenuity succeed under extreme conditions. Mechanics and drivers kept operations moving against impossible odds. Psychological effect on the enemy. Germans heard endless trucks at night, realizing they faced not just an army, but a mobilized industrial and organizational force. Historians note that Red Ball Express combined discipline, technology, human courage, and organizational genius. Drivers returned home heroes without medals or ceremonies. Their battlefield was invisible. Yet their contribution endures in archives, veterans' memoirs, and history, proving that American victory in Europe relied not only on combat but also on the tireless work of the 23,000 drivers of the Red Ball.